Hey, hello, and way to go. I think that this car is one that people aren't going to have too hard of a time to figure out what it is. It's not quite stock, but it nonetheless gets the idea across very well. It's a 1970, what year is it? 1972 Plymouth Roadrunner. And it's a car which was late to the party and never got the acclaim that it could have gotten. It was actually a replica of a 1968 Pontiac GTO. Had the same side window action. It even had the same taillights in the bumper of the 68, same semi-fastback back window, and the front, while it had its own front end, a Plymouth front end, also was a rubber bumper front end. This is a custom version put out by a company that, let's see if there's a name on it. Not really, but City of Industry, California. But it's kind of a custom version of it. The stripes were within the, actually it's a GTX. The stripes were within the realm of what the Plymouth people did, but the Plymouth one, the stripes were down here, and they went over the roof, and these were more like the stripes that you had on the 68 Olds Cutlass. But in those days, Chrysler and Ford followed GM. If it worked for GM in 1 year, it should work 3 years later for Chrysler, at least in this particular era. But that was a performance car from Chrysler in 1972. I liked it a lot then. I like it a lot now. It actually came out in '71 as a intermediate. The four doors claim to uniqueness. The four doors were styled differently than the two doors, something General Motors didn't even do. So the four doors were your police cars and taxi cabs, and they looked very sedate, although very modern, and the two doors looked like they were ready to go to the strip. It's kind of nice that Chrysler followed GM by a few years, because GM knew the party was over in these type of cars, and 70 was the peak, and Chrysler, even though the peak had passed by a year, came out with one more iteration. So being a little bit beyond time actually allowed us to have another muscle car. Ford came out with the '72 Gran Torino, which was basically a muscle car for 1 year. '73, the big bumpers got put on, and muscle cars were passé. But this I want to introduce also a car which I hate to do the Chryslers all in multi-segments as if they don't deserve their own show, but this is the equivalent in our age of the 72, 71 Roadrunner or GTX, and this is a Dodge Challenger. The Challenger of our age mimics the style of the 1970 through '74 Challenger, but basically the 70 and 71 down to a T. It's obviously you can tell one from the next, but they didn't change the theme an iota. The rubber bumpers, of course, are something that we have to have. The platform they had was the one they used with the Charger and the 300, so it's a little bit bigger. But in being bigger, it's basically about the size. Now I know these aren't to scale with each other, but it's about the size almost of that Plymouth. So it's a mid-sized car with a pony car motif, and it's got big engines and a lot of street cred for our time, and it's brought the Challenger back alive. Everybody thought, well, the Challenger came late to the party in 1970, the last pony car. It got there just in time to be relevant, and then it hung on until '74, but nobody would have guessed that it would come back in 2009 or so, and be around at least till now, 2011. And 2021, excuse me. So it's like a 13-year run, and it gets better and better looking. They got more and more iterations of it, and Mopar has really become an amazing performance division of Chrysler. Now that Chrysler is under new management, the French Peugeot, it's hard to say whether Peugeot is going to let them run with this moment, but every moment comes and it goes, and I can't see this moment necessarily staying around much longer, unless, because, old muscle cars, even though these are selling, you want to get out when the getting is good. I would hope that they come up with a new generation and, maintain this role that they're on, but I wouldn't necessarily count on that. It's the pony car era redo. And another thing about the pony cars is that the people that were around in 1970 that remember them are quite obviously getting old and, even disappearing because that was for their memory. I mean, it was like when I was a kid, people were still going around in Model Ts, and not that you'd see them all the time, but Grandpa and even Dad remembered them. And once the generation that remembers them new goes, they become curiosities and strictly for the hardcore automotive collectors. And that's what I imagine is going to happen to the pony car segment. That once us guys that are in our 60s and in our 70s, we're not going to be buying cars much anymore. That's not going to be our most relevant concern. So these cars are going to pass by into a bygone era. The new people that are into anything but cars are going to see these as yesterday's papers. And maybe not. Maybe some of the people that got into these cars with the renewal, the revival, will consider them their own age cars. But they've really had a good history. Now, of course, this car never would come back. You'd never say never, but it basically came back in the form of the Challenger and the Charger. But their history and their stockpile of old cars is deep. So I would say these cars are to be celebrated. One from 1972, one from about 2017. It could even be today's. I know it's not, but the style has not changed. Now, there we've got that car, and now we've added it onto the Firebird, which I have not done a video on, the Model A or not the Model A, but the 32 Ford, which is a classic, the 53 Eldorado, the clamshell wagon, which featured on the last episode, the old Impala, the 62 Impala. So our car garage is really getting covered here. And I take you out for a spin in both these Chryslers, but, I don't want to get stopped. You drive around cars like these, you have a sign on you that, look out, I'm gonna qualify for a ticket. Although they're not giving out that many tickets these days, but still, you want to go with the common idea on these things. So thank you for going to Dave's Garage, and we'll be back with you next week.